Welcome to Harmonium LA, the podcast. I'm your host, Jessica Heedy Gandolfi, emotional wellness expert, founder of Harmonium LA, and published author. The world needs healing now more than ever. My goal is to bring you inspiring conversations, tips, and techniques that will help you build a sustainable healing toolkit. The Harmonium LA podcast is the only resource you will need to slow down, stop searching, and start healing. So Gretchen, welcome to the show. I am absolutely thrilled that you are joining us today. Seriously, I just know this is going to be such an impactful conversation for our audience today. So thank you.
Well, thanks for having me. You know everything, Jessica, I'm all about. So let's go.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I was saying in the intro, how we met through the mastermind. And when, we were in that space together, I just felt so drawn and connected to you. You just had this really amazing presence of just being centered and grounded and just making people feel so comfortable around you. And so I just gravitated towards that straight away. And it was on the nail because it's exactly how you are. And it's just amazing to have you and just to have been able to watch you grow since that time, almost 2 years ago, and to see where you've gone from and continue to elevate yourself too. It's phenomenal and so inspiring.
Oh, well, I receive all of that. And I thank you because I pray I show up like that. And I felt the same way about you, which is why we were so soul sisters from the get-go.
Exactly. So let's start with your journey, because obviously it wasn't always that way for you. I said in the intro that you went from being this burnt out, stressed out, registered nurse, doing, amazing things, helping other people and supporting and healing other people, to, being absolutely burnt out yourself, and then realizing that you needed to make a shift and change your life to propel yourself moving forward. So do you want to share some of that with us?
Oh, yes. Well, usually if you go into healthcare or a service-based field, you're a helper, right? That's like your nature or what you desire. And I think with helpers, probably a lot of people listening to this podcast, sometimes the people around you, there's not a boundary. So if you don't create the boundary, there will be no boundary. And that's exactly what happened to me. So even if you're listening and you're not a nurse, you might resonate with the feeling of it. But I just found myself, having graduated from nursing school and thinking I was going to save the world, and then getting into it and realizing that it took everything out of me and there was not a lot left at the end of the day for my family. I had a baby at the time, and my husband, and my own personal life and my own personal health. And really the thing that bothered me the most about it is that I couldn't even really live the life that I wanted to financially, even though I was living in my purpose and what I felt was my calling. I wasn't making enough money to live healthy outside of there. And the field of nursing is definitely better money than a lot of other fields. But the kind of life I wanted to live, I couldn't live that on my nursing salary. So here I was, not making enough money for what I wanted out of life, and feeling like I was totally depleted by the time I got home at the end of the day. And that's kind of what led me into entrepreneurship, is because I just thought, how else can I make money? And so, I knew I didn't want a second job. I'm like, I already don't have enough time. So I just looked at ways that I could leverage my skills and leverage, partner with companies to make more money. And just really, that's what got me into entrepreneurship. And then from there, and this is a key thing, is even though I continued to work as a nurse, I changed where I worked. Okay.
Right.
That's so critical. I love being a nurse. It's not that I don't want to be a nurse. I just don't want to feel depleted at the end of my day.
And I'm sure so many people can relate to that, because it's like you say, it's about setting boundaries. And most of us are not very good at that, because I think that is a muscle that you have to build, right? Because it's so much easier to just say yes to everything and everybody, and not know when to stand in your own power and say, no, I don't have enough to give right now, so I have to say no.
Yeah, totally. I don't have enough to give right now, so I have to say no. I'm going to write that down and I'm going to say that every day.
But hold on one second, because yes, you were a mom, but you now are not just a biological mom, but you're a stepmom, you're a foster mom. How did that, where and when did that all come into the mix, and how did you navigate that?
Yeah. So it's funny. Everyone likes to project onto me. I'm shedding this story because people say to me, you're so busy. People say that to me. And I always say, no, I'm not. I have what is my life is there because that's what I can handle. You don't have to handle what I handle, or you don't have to take on what I take on.
Mm,
So if you like hear this and you're thinking like, oh gosh, she's got a lot going on, just know that we can each learn how to handle more or differently or have different boundaries. But we got into foster care. I married a guy who had a kid. So that's how I became a stepmom. So I was actually a stepmom before a biological mom. And then we had some children together. And my husband, when he met me, told me that he was a foster youth and he spent about 6 years of his childhood in the foster care system. And it was really important for him to give back. And so, of course, I like fell in love with that idea,
mm.
but then when it became a reality, it is actually a lot more to it than just like happy, rosy foster mom. But it still has been an amazing journey. And we have kids at our home right now, actually. And you don't always have kids, they kind of come and go based on what
Mm.
their needs are, but it's been like a really cool way to just try to heal the next generation of people.
That's so powerful. And I just want to go back to what you said, actually. It's like the universe, God will only give you what you can handle, right? It's what you have, what you are dealt is because you are able to deal with that, and you can deal with it, because otherwise you wouldn't have been dealt that card. And
Mm,
it's just knowing how to navigate that and how to prioritize and to be able to look at it from a different perspective, probably, and think, how can I use this to serve others and to give back, as well as to allow myself to move forward and to thrive with all of these, I won't say challenges, but with all of these experiences that I have been given, and how can I
mhm.
turn that into a positive and to be able to be helping other people.
Yeah. Oh, it's so true. Yeah, so true. Like my mom has Parkinson's, and sometimes when I watch her and I think, gosh, that must like just feel pain when I look at her because I
Mm,
know what she's experiencing must feel painful, right? But when you talk to her, she'll always say like, "Oh, Parkinson's is such a gift. Like it taught me how to appreciate every single thing in my life." Like imagine having that mindset about a chronic illness that will eventually result in your life ending, to be like, this is a gift because now I appreciate every little thing.
mm. And that is just such a reminder about the way that we look at things. You
Hmm.
can see the glass half empty or half full. And, depending on which way you choose to see it is going to determine how your life rolls out. And to have that perspective on, like you say, such a, it's such a debilitating disease that's just a true testament to her character. No wonder you are now, as you are, showing up with this really positive mindset. But for people that are listening, especially mums or entrepreneurs, business people that are looking to really kind of get that life work balance and to really move forward into creating this life of their dreams, what advice would you give them? Because I know we talk a lot about trauma and how
Mm.
it's such a stigma around it sometimes as a word, but how debilitating that can be as well to people that are thinking about wanting to go out there and create, because they're very goal driven or very motivated, but they feel stuck or blocked. I mean, what kind of tips or advice would you have for people in that space?
Oh gosh. Well, this is like my favorite topic because you're talking about an achiever, right? A
Mm,
person who thrives on winning or achieving, or a lot of business minded people are like that. I don't think you have to be in business to have that mind, right? Maybe you're listening and you're not in business, but you just have that goal driven, outcome driven kind of spirit. And that's a gift. That is a total gift.
mm,
However, I will say that if you have unhealed parts of your life, like experiences that happened to you as a child that made you be that way, maybe you were neglected or abused in some way, or made fun of, or bullied, or felt left out. Like trauma, people forget, and I know you know all about this,
mm.
but people forget that trauma isn't like very newsworthy hard things that happen to you. It's not always these major major things. Trauma can be witnessing something like a car accident and then your
Mhm.
nervous system never resets. That's what you do, right? Like
Yep.
helping people with their nervous system.
Yep.
And so we don't realize that things that triggered us and kind of jarred our nervous system at any point in our life, if we don't learn how to deal with those, they will 100% show up for you later, especially when you're trying to go after a goal. So, like for entrepreneurs, what I noticed for myself is I was really outspoken and loud and assertive and desired to be in control of my future and my finances. And I got that way because at one point before that, I didn't feel in control. Someone had taken away my power and I felt harmed by this person. And the circumstances don't matter, right? But that feeling of feeling like I wasn't in control resulted in me taking on a position of I'm going to be in control. Well, that's great for entrepreneurship, but eventually that's going to come back. And so a better thing and sort of just pushing through all those goals is to look back and go, where do I have like unhealed areas that I could be working on? Because once you integrate that, then when you're trying to hit those goals, that's not going to show up as like a sticky, rough point. It's going to show up as this is cool. I get to integrate this thing that happened and realize I have a gift from it now, but it also could have negative consequences if I don't learn how to integrate it.
Mm, that's so true and so poignant to a lot of people, because I think, like you say, you don't realize, and you know from your nursing experience, trauma and how it shows up. And like you say, it doesn't have to be something so, like you say, overrated. But it can just be the smallest of things, even just being a mum at home or
Mm-hmm.
being a dad at home or dealing with the last 12 months of everybody being at home. That was traumatic to so many people. And that, like you say, if it will show up as a block if it's not dealt with. And when you're building a business as an entrepreneur anyway, it's challenging enough because there is so many ups and so many downs. And I think, you're always on high alert. You're always trying to push yourself. And that in itself is aggravating to the nervous system, and you're in this state of fight or flight because you are worrying or thinking about where's the next job, where's the next pitch, where's the next, money, dollar amount going to come from to really push me forward, and just chasing what you know in your heart to be so true and available. But sometimes, like you say, just being blocked and stumbling and knowing how to navigate through that.
Yes, it's so true. Like you don't really get your cool business ideas when you're stressed out. You get them when you're like on the beach or in the shower or like on a walk.
Right. And yet, how often do we allow ourselves, we have to make that time. We have to force ourselves to do that in order to get that downtime, to allow the business, the ideas to flow versus trying to push and like grasping at straws, like where's the next idea, where's the next thing going to come from. Just being in your space and having that downtime to reset, yes, the nervous system, to work through unhealed issues, but also to allow the ideas to flow in.
Yes. Oh my gosh. So true.
Oh my gosh. So obviously now, I mean, you are faith-led business and I love that. So talk to us about that, because I think a lot of people can relate to that.
Yeah. Well, so I do, I help women with turning ideas into income. That's really what I did as a nurse is I took this problem solving ability in nursing and I turned it into entrepreneurship by solving problems for other people and exchanging that with money. And that's entrepreneurship, right? And because that's what you learn as a nurse is how to solve problems all day long, many of them very critical problems. I became very good at problem solving. And so it essentially turned into business coaching for people who feel stuck in their business. And I don't have like professional coaching certificates or anything like that, but I was helping all these women and we had women after women coming through my programs, but I always felt like something was missing. Like, when you just feel like something's missing in your alignment of your business. And I realized it was my faith. Like I'm so spiritual about my business. I pray to God every day. It's the first thing I do when I wake up. And my faith is in the Christian faith. So I read my Bible, but that's such a big part of me. But so if I left that out of helping other women, that's crazy. But the problem is I was so worried about being inclusive to all religions and all beliefs that I left it out because I thought it was actually helping people by leaving it out. And what I found is it's actually better for me to work with the woman who is my same faith because I can speak to her on a level that another coach can't, right? And there's 8 billion people on the planet. I can't help all of them and they all don't need my help. So it's okay if I serve this particular population.
Right. And it's resonance, right? Because that's
Yeah.
what you need to attract the same mindset of people to you, because that's how you're going to grow and to be able to help them to move into thriving as businesswomen and business owners, because you understand and you have that same mindset and mentality to run alongside with. I mean, so people tend to find you because they feel connected to you, right? And they trust and see what you have achieved and they can see themselves in you as a
Yeah.
mirror.
Totally. And I will say that doing healing work on myself is the absolute reason they're able to see me. Because I think when you don't do the healing work, you show up like forced, or, when you watch those videos on Instagram and you can tell the person doesn't really feel confident in what they're doing, but they know they need to show up. So they're doing it scared, which is cool. We all got to do that.
Right.
Well, I think sometimes that happens because we have unhealed areas of our life that
Mhm.
make us not really be seen so authentically. And
Mm.
once I healed all the areas that were the reason I felt like I had to control everything and really did the work, and I'm talking like serious in-person work, like what you do with people, where
Mm.
you like do the work. I could just be me. And I didn't care if it was right or wrong or perfect or not. And that's the favorite thing people love about me is they're like, "You're just you." I'm like, "Yeah." And it took me a long time to just be me because every day I looked on Instagram and thought I needed to be her, or I should try what she's doing, or look at the way she does it. And until I could heal, I couldn't even see who I was. I could only mimic what other people were.
Mm. And so for people that are listening and they hear you and they say, "Oh, yes, I can resonate to that, but I have no idea where to even start." How did you even begin with your
Mm.
healing?
Well, I think the first thing is I just listened to what my body was telling me.
Mm.
And I literally just shut my eyes and was like, okay, when you do those exercises, I'm sure you do them with your clients where you
Mhm.
kind of just do a body scan.
Yeah.
And I literally felt like I was like pulsating, and I could feel like I'm going to talk a little nursey nurse here, but you're a practitioner, so you'll be able to keep up. I could feel my adrenals just
Yeah.
feeling like they were just like kicking out, just trying to kick out emptiness, because there's no adrenaline left. And I could feel irritation to my kids when they did the smallest things. They're just asking me for a cup of water and I'm irritated. They're asking me, like
Mm.
all those things. I just started like paying attention to like all the ways that were showing up. I've irritated at my spouse,
Yeah.
eating sugar all the time, just like I could just listen to my body and what was happening. I wasn't like trying to judge it or fix it. I just was like, okay, what is actually happening? And I still do this practice today. Like I did it yesterday. I felt a little bit like not right. And I just started journaling out what I was feeling. And then I could look at it and go, oh, and I figured out what it was. But that was the first step. And the second step is finding help. I mean, literally, if you're in LA, go see Jessica or someone in your, really in-person help is what I'm talking about. And, I sought a group program for people who've experienced trauma that's faith-based because that's what I needed.
Mm.
And for 10 weeks, 3 hours a week, we did the work, and it was really looking at patterns and things that have happened and going back to that, literally feeling what it felt like in that moment. I think some people call that like inner child work.
Yep.
And it didn't call it that in the book because the book was like a Christian book. But do you see how it's all kind of a healing process?
Well, yeah,
you know?
absolutely.
Yeah. And that was it. It's like doing that actual work and then learning how to revisit it when it comes up again. Because I think it's an integration of it. It's not like you forget it, it's just you learn how to reframe it.
And that's the thing, because you're growing, and every time you heal a layer of something, then something else will show up, and that will need a different approach sometimes, and it will need a
Mhm.
different technique to be able to face and kind of move through that specific area of blockage or challenge or whatever it might be showing up as, whether it's in, the physical, the emotional, the mental space. It's something which will need a different set of eyes on it sometimes. And so to just even begin and to listen to the warning signs, because like you say, when your body, when your adrenal glands, your cortisol levels are up, your nervous system is taxed, you have to listen to those signals and know that something has to shift. And some people, sometimes it's difficult to know how to even begin to make those first steps, and it's okay to take time out to stop and listen to your body, even if you have to shut yourself away for half an hour to an hour away from the family or whoever it is, and just listen and tune into your body. But that, I think, is part of your, what I would call, spiritual hygiene practice.
Mhm. Oh, that's a good word for that. I like that.
Which you need to do daily, right? And that's what you
Mhm.
do. You get up and you read the Bible, and you speak to God and take your advice, listen to tips from source. That's your source of spiritual hygiene, I'm guessing, every day. But for
Mhm.
other people, it might look something completely different.
Yeah, yeah, that's such a good point. And I think no matter what religion you are, watching the sunrise, I don't know what it
Mm.
is about the sunrise, but just watching it come up every day, there's like a 5-minute window where it will pop its head up and then be done and up for the day. I try to catch as many of those as I can because it just sort of reminds you of time, of opportunity, of, most of the time no one else is awake. So it's a
Mhm.
real like
It's the
of
most, to be honest, it's the most beautiful time of the day. I agree with you
yeah.
100%, and it
Yeah.
resets, I think it's your circadian rhythms in the body,
Mhm.
right? You have to watch, if you watch the sunrise and then the sunset at both ends of the day, then it really resets those inner workings of the body. And it just gives you that different perspective and outlook. It's an amazing way to start the day, and it's
Mhm.
free. And it's
Yes.
available to all of us. But it's getting in the habit of doing that too. I mean, do you
Mhm.
find when you're coaching with your clients, it's, this is, these are the things that really will help move you along and benefit you and push you forward, but you have to commit to that.
It's so true. Yeah. And it's, there's some days where I don't commit to it and then I realize how I feel and I'm like, "Oh, I don't want to do this. I don't want to feel this way tomorrow."
Mm.
Let's go back to what I know is going to make me feel good.
Yeah, having the awareness, because you've been so used to creating those habits and those mindset shifts, that you, when you're off and when you skip it, you automatically realize that you're aware enough and conscious enough that you know to go back to that, to balance, to get back into balance.
Gosh, so true.
And then through all of that, I mean, you just see how, from a business standpoint, everything else will then start to unfold when you're more balanced and focused and aware of what you're doing daily in your practices.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And also, I try to remind myself that it's not linear, it's up and down.
Mm.
Because otherwise, you could quit when it's down, but then a double portion of up is on its way, and you quit right before you got to receive that? And
Yeah.
so I just try to always remind myself, like, okay, there's going to be highs and lows. And if I can ride both of these the same, instead of getting so jacked when it's high and thinking grandiose thoughts, and then when it's low, feeling like it's lower than it actually is, if I
Mhm.
can, you can ride those a little bit. I think that's another thing that helps when you're healed, is you don't, your emotions don't hijack you as much.
Yeah. And oh my gosh, I love that, actually, your emotions, being, allowing your emotions to hijack you. It's, we don't think about it that way, but it's true, because again, it's
Mhm.
that subconscious mind, it's that subconscious thought pattern that's playing, that we're just not always in tune with and aware of. But yeah, having the capacity to be in control of those in a healthy, productive way versus out of control in a really unhealthy and
Mhm.
damaging way.
Yeah, totally. And your business should not be run by your emotions. So get some data that you can measure so that you could, even if it's small data, like how many listens on a podcast, or, how many connections did I make this week? Like, doesn't have to be followers or sales. It could just be little things that you're like, you have some control over. Like, you have control over how many connections you make in a week, and just measuring a little bit every day. Like, I write it down in a journal, what I'm going to
Mhm.
accomplish for the day, so I can always look back and see all the things I accomplished for the week. That way, when I get to the end of the week, even if there's not a sale, I can be like, I still made progress, even though it might not be like the girl who made 100 grand in a week. Like, that's where we
Yeah.
get caught up, is thinking you need to be like someone else.
Well, that's it. And I think those that were connections, and looking at the connections that you've made, and are they healthy? Are they
Mm.
connections that you want to continue with? Because it's very, very easy to go out and make connections left, right, and center. But are they connections that really are going to help you be the best version of you, to show up as the best version of you, and also to help project your and propel your business in the direction that you want it to go, that feels in alignment with your mission and your goals?
Yeah. Or if you're not in business, just alignment with your life in your growth.
Absolutely. So, top tips for people that are listening and are wanting to really get their life back on track, and knowing that they've been through the mill, that are really struggling, have ideas and thoughts about building a business, building their entrepreneurship journey. What tips and takeaways would you have? Because you've been there, you've walked the walk, you've been in the trenches and out the other side. I mean, what advice would you give to the audience?
Well, from a healing perspective, I would say, just really be honest with how you feel and your emotions and everything going on. That, I think that's when we get into trouble, is when we try to pretend we're further along on the internet, or, we try to show up a certain way because we think that's what we should do, but just really be you and be real. I'm always saying like, hey, I think I want to try a new income stream. I don't know if it'll work. Well, let's just see, like, who cares? What's the worst that happens? You try something and then you learn and then you try something again. So I would just say that. If it serves your audience, if they go to ideatoincomewebinar.com, we have a free webinar that will tell them if they're basically how to tell if an idea will make money. So you can go watch that. But essentially it's just knowing that you're going to try a bunch of things. And so if you can fall in love with the process of the journey instead of the outcome, you're going to love entrepreneurship, because every day you're going to wake up and be like, I get to solve new problems today. But if you're in it for like some end game, I think it's going to feel hard.
Having curiosity, having that mindset of being curious about how could this work out? Is this going to work? Let's try it and see. And standing by the fact that, what? So what if it doesn't work? So what if I try this and I fail? So what? I can get back up and do it again. And it's all a learning curve. It's all a learning process. And I think sometimes just in that process, the healing comes as part of that, because you start to see that you're still okay. You still survived. And yes, it might have been a challenge and, a knockback, but you can get back up and you can try it again in a different outfit, in a different set of clothes. You can dress it up however way you want it and revisit and try again.
Oh, so good. I love it.
Amazing. So Gretchen, I'm so thrilled that you took time today to join us and just to talk about all of those different aspects of healing and moving forward and business and entrepreneurship, and just being an amazing human that is in touch and being true to you, your true essence, and showing up as you right here, right now, not trying to be somebody else. And I think that in itself is such a healing message to people. It's like, there is only one of you. You are so unique. You are so beautiful as you are. So just continue to be you and trust that the right people will find you.
Yeah, it's so true. And thank you for having me. This is so fun. I'm all about conversations of health and healing. And it's just so fun watching all the ways that you are just helping the world and helping people to heal. It's just so beautiful. Thank you for your work, and never quit, because we need you.
And likewise, and your podcast, by the way, which has just been phenomenally successful. I think is in 63 countries now, 39 downloads or something incredible. So Net Worth It podcast, which again, people need to tune in. People need you. They need that advice, that support, that network and community. It's phenomenal. We have to just keep supporting each other and just move the world forward as we need to do.
Amen.
Oh, Gretchen, thank you so much. We will put all your info in the show notes. People can find you. They can reach out to you. They can sign up for your webinar and move their lives forward as they need to.
Awesome.
Phenomenal. Amazing.
Thank you
so much. Take care. Bye. Thank you so much for joining me today. I truly hope that you enjoyed the show, and there is at least one thing that you can take away from today's episode that will help you build that sustainable healing toolkit. It would mean the absolute world to me if you would subscribe to the show, give it a 5-star review, and share this or any of the other episodes with somebody that you feel could really benefit by listening. I look forward to seeing you next time.